And I've got the fan going in the background. Got the windows closed so the neighbors don't think I'm crazier than they already think. Anyway, the photograph under discussion was taken by a man named Frank Sysinski in Hubbardton, Vermont, September 2nd, 2010. And at the time, he kind of championed the idea that it was a Bigfoot, and he couldn't believe what he saw this trail camera took. So, excuse me a second. He set up a trail cam around his apple trees in Vermont for whatever reason. Doesn't matter. He set up a trail cam, and the image that was captured, it is a striking image, but it's completely natural, of course. But anything that's captured at an odd angle, these days, a little bit of twilight or at night and indistinct images, well, the cryptozoologists have to interpret this as being a cryptid, especially Bigfoot, Sasquatch, what have you. And it only applies to the most indistinct images. If the image is kind of unclear, they don't ask, could this be an owl? They conclude this is a Sasquatch. And that's faulty reasoning. What they're doing is they're validating the experimental hypothesis rather than trying to prove the null hypothesis, which is what can make this not a Sasquatch? What things about this image have to rule out Sasquatch? I'm going to show you one very important feature of that image, and that is you look at the subject of the image and then you look at the background. The image itself has these vertical striations, and they're feathers, of course, but that vertical striation that would rule out Sasquatch right there, because in one interpretation, this is a Sasquatch, it has it that the left lobe of the subject is the head, and the head is looking down as if it's looking down at the ground or foraging on the ground. And of course, you don't see any other head-like features. You see the domed shape that is interpreted as being a head. But you don't see any ears, you don't see any hairline, you don't see any cheeks, you don't see any eyes for certain, you don't see a nose, nothing. But this is interpreted as being the head. This is the shoddy science of the cryptozoologist. And hair on all mammals grows from anterior to posterior. It's growing from in the cephalocaudal sort of direction. That's from the head to tail, right? Hair on your head, unless you spike it up with gel, it's growing from front to back. And on every picture of what is presumed to be a Sasquatch or Bigfoot that you've ever seen, the hair grows pretty much like every other primate. Comb the hair, you know how to comb the hair. The creature would appreciate you combing its hair in the proper direction. It grows from front to back, top to down. Unless it's an ingrown hair, it doesn't grow from back to front. So look carefully when you get your opportunity. Look at this photo. Be honest with yourself. Look at the striations. The striations, by the way, don't occur in any part of the background. If you remove the subject from the image and there was just a background, you don't see those up and down lines. But really, we can talk about up and down lines all day, and I can point out the lines which are reversed. from port to starboard, from left to right, that creature has striations that go in only one direction. In that direction, that just rules out that the creature is Bigfoot if it's in the position that they claim. So, of course, I'm sure they will adjust their theory and say, oh, no, well, maybe that's not the head, maybe this is the head. So I'm also going to point out where the head of the owl is, and that the lobe on the left is the left wing, the lobe on the right is the right wing. But if you look on the lower right wing, really see wing feathers. There's just no question that those are feathers, and they're all swooping and arcing in the correct direction. The top of the top lobe of the subject is the owl's head, and the very lower extremity is the owl's tail, which it looks like an owl's tail, and the feathers that make it up. In addition, you have these spots, which of course the cryptozoologists have come up with some amazing explanations. I presume one of them is mange. Now they don't accept the mangy bear. Get a picture of a mangy bear and then they call it a sasquatch. Oh no, that's not a bear with mange. But then you have this picture, which the only way to explain that it must be a Sasquatch is to say that it has mange. So mange is an argument they use when it suits their narrative. I am validating the null hypothesis and disproving the experimental hypothesis that this is Sasquatch. So you should really give that up right now because it doesn't hold water.